Hi, my name is Jason Williams, CEO for the Society of Innovators at Purdue Northwest, and welcome to the Spark Series, where we ignite conversations with innovators, entrepreneurs, and changemakers creating real impact. Our goal is to spark ideas, share journeys, and inspire action. Excited to welcome today's guest, DJ Moore. DJ is the CEO of Erosion and Construction Solutions and one of the innovators behind Siltworm, a sustainable sediment filtration product made from recycled wood waste. Based in Merrillville, Indiana, DJ and his team were inducted into the Society of Innovators last year for their environmentally friendly approach to erosion control. In this episode, we plan to dive into DJ's entrepreneurial mindset, product innovation in construction, and the challenges of scaling a green tech solution, and the leadership lessons he's learned while building a values-based company recognized on the Inc. 5000 list. DJ, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so first, just want to learn a little bit more about you. You worked in construction for several years before you're really phasing into the development and launch of Erosion and Construction Solutions. So how did that idea first take shape, and what steps did you take to turn that real product people could use on site?
Yeah, so we started as a higher-end residential home builder, and we started in 2006, so just before 2008. Market crash of everything. So that was a tough time to be a home builder. So my cousin and my business partner, Joe, is our visionary, and he's always looking for something new. And he actually, in having to do erosion control, he ran across the inferior products that were out there. So it was a frustration for him. He found an alternative that wasn't really being used in the marketplace and saw a gap and an opportunity. He jumped on it, started working with some other local businesses to put together all the inputs and the pieces, but really it didn't really take shape and get to something feasible until we stopped outsourcing a lot of that and started doing it ourselves, because you can only get so far relying on other people to make your dreams come true. So at that point, once we started taking ownership of it and control of the processes, that's when it became something that we could actually use and was effective. So.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, really, you allude to, yes, you started a company, but yeah, you're developing a product, and starting that company in a technical field like erosion control certainly can be an intimidating challenge. So, can you share what were some of the early obstacles you faced, and how did you address or overcome those?
Really, the biggest challenges were the normal business challenges that any business runs into, regardless of scale, where it's cash flow. Revenue is number one, but thankfully, when you have a good product or a good service, usually revenue is not an issue. I would say the biggest issue overall was all of the issues and trying to tackle them all at once. And I realized, after getting a professional coach, that you can't tackle everything at once, because, when you're faced with all the problems in a small business or any business, you have two natural reactions: try and solve them all, or panic and don't solve any of them. So really developing that cadence of figure out what the biggest problem is and what's going to make the biggest impact if you solve it, and tackle it until it's solved. And that's still how we approach everything now.
Let's talk about, what is the process management, I guess, putting systems in place. What does that look like really on the business side of things, away from the product?
Yeah, I would say it's consistency. Like I said, identifying what the biggest impact is going to be. It's an 80-20 rule. What do you need to fix now, and what's going to have the biggest impact there, and keeping consistent with it and making sure, you develop it, it's right, you test it, you make changes as you need, and it's got to be a fluid, flexible process. You got to fix it if it's broken. Where we failed initially is we would identify it, we'd fix it, we'd be fixed for a while, and then all of a sudden the same issue would pop up 2 months later, and it's like, well, what happened? And it's like, well, we stopped doing that. So making sure that you continually do it over and over, and just because you think you solved the problem doesn't mean it's solved forever.
And then we just kind of launched into this, but I want to pause for those who aren't aware. We've been talking about erosion control. We've mentioned Siltworm. I always like to remind people, it's those black socks or the snakes you see on the side of a construction site. But kind of break that down a little bit. What exactly is Siltworm? And more than that, what is the problem you uniquely solved?
Siltworm basically it's a sediment filtration device. And the reason you need those, the first thing on a construction job site and the last thing off is the SWIP plan. And the SWIP plan is Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. The the number one global pollutant of fresh water is sediment, so dirt. And you don't think about that. The big flashy pollutant is, big corporations dumping chemicals into rivers. That doesn't happen that often anymore. Dirt does, and it's something you don't think about. So there's different ways to prevent that from happening. So basically, we just want clean water. What you typically see, and most widespread, just because it's visible and it's a prevalent measure, is silt fence, which is that black fence with the stakes. Yep. It's a geotextile. A lot of people just think it's kind of a fence to fence off the job site, but really what that does is it's a damming product that stops the sediment runoff from leaving the site. So what that SWIP plan does is make sure that the contractor has a plan to make sure everything stays on site and it's not polluting the perimeter. Alternative solution is sediment filtration device, which is ours, which instead of a dam acts as a filter. So dirty water goes in on one side, our filter media inside captures all the sediment, and clean water comes out on the other side. So it's a long-winded way of saying it's a filter to keep water clean.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I guess more specifically, Siltworm, as you mentioned, is it's lightweight, it's efficient. On the sustainability side, you're producing this from over almost 99% recycled material. So talk a little bit more. You talked about the function and really the functional problem you're solving, but how did some of those design choices shape the business model? From pricing and production to the kind of value you're offering your customers.
So all of them shape the business model. Environmentally friendly. We want a 99% recycled product because our product helps the environment. The lightweight. Construction workers are tough guys, but at the same time, they prefer not to carry heavy things if you can avoid it, just from an injury standpoint. So having it be lightweight, it's an easier product to handle. We ship from a single location, so it costs money to ship bulky products. It costs money to ship heavy products. So having it be lightweight means we can fit more on a truck and we can ship it more efficiently. We can, lower our carbon footprint with less trucks going on the road, and we have to be able to ship it far.
And I think it's so good that you're highlighting, it's more than just the product, right? I mean, how many you can fit on a pallet or on a truck makes a big difference, right?
And when it comes to a business, it's usually not your product or service that kills you. It's the everything else that kills you, and how, because you can have a great product, but if you don't execute on it correctly, no one's going to see that. So
yeah, that's good stuff. Can you share about a time where you did examine a familiar process or material and found a more effective way to utilize it?
Yeah. So thankfully, we've ingrained this in our whole team. It's easier to innovate early in the business because it's new. Everything's broken, so it's easy to fix it. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit. Our manager out in Elkhart, where we manufacture, Scott. No one asked him to do this. No one. He didn't have a directive or anything like that. But he just figured out a way to pack our pallets more efficiently, and he ended up getting about, I want to say, 15% more product onto a pallet, and that is huge when we're manufacturing up to 5 trucks a day, and it doesn't seem like a big deal. You might not call it an innovation on the surface, but you look at it and it's like, man, that's huge. Like he saved us a ton of money. He's saving our customers money just by figuring out a better way to stack a pallet.
Yeah. So you've shared many ways that innovation is really built into what you're doing, from the product and manufacturing, logistics. Can you share how using technology or even just some design processes have really helped give you a competitive edge?
Yeah. So our first manufacturing line included a baseball bat as a method of, once we bent the siltworms, we bang it down so it would fit on the pallet better. And so that was the extent of our technology, and that was technology that we were finding acceptable. We were making it took us a week to make one truck. And today we have an array of systems that all build together, and we're making 5 trucks a day. So just those iterations, and we've had probably 5 or 6 different iterations of our line. We say, what part of the process is making my job more difficult? And that's how we identify what needs to get fixed and changed. And we try and be a business owner that cares and wants to remove obstacles, and not just say, just go to work. Like just just do it.
I know for you personally, the business is obviously important, but, community engagement also vitally important for you as a business leader. And really in recent months and in the last couple of years, you've become engaged as a mentor, as an advocate for other entrepreneurs across Northwest Indiana. So how does that community engagement fit into the overall business strategy for you at Siltworm?
Yeah, I mean, short answer, it doesn't fit into the business. At the same time, I value it, and I think it's extremely important to give back. I've seen, too many times, because I was one of these kids where I was not a great student. I didn't love school, and I told myself this story that I was bad at math, and I started making life decisions based on that. And then I realized once I'm in a business, I'm pretty decent at math. I just need to do it a different way. So I desperately needed to hear about, hey, just because you're not good at geometry, or you don't get geometry, you're not interested in reading, Little Women in English class, that doesn't mean that you're a bad student or you can't contribute to society. That's my number one driver in figuring out, because if I can change one kid's life, because like I said, I needed to hear it, and I wish I could have known my story before. I do a lot of mentoring at Purdue, my alma mater, and high school students, and almost all of them come to me and they say, I want to polish my resume. I want to get that internship. And I always hit the brakes and I say, no, we're backing way up. Like, why do you want that internship? And I make them figure out what motivates them, because I think we're all given God-given, gifts and talents. And I try to get them to identify that and say, what are you good at? What do you like? What do you not like? What makes you happy? What stresses you out? Had I done the work when I was 19 or 16 to figure out what really motivates me, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache.
And I would say, though, overall, it goes beyond just the classrooms and some of the alumni networks that you're engaging with, university. I mean, you're also someone that at this point, as a successful business owner, entrepreneur yourself, you're really starting to give back to the community, engaging on boards of directors around the area. So, again, more of that broader view beyond just the engagement with students and young entrepreneurs. Why have you decided to make this a priority? Why is it important for you to at the community engagement?
I think all of us have a responsibility to contribute to the greater society. In my values, I have 5 pillars in my life that I try and live up to, and in that order. And number 1 is God and my faith. Number 2 is my wife, my marriage. Number 3 is my kids. Number 4 is my vocation and my work, and number 5 is my community. So as I actualize each one of those things, you can't really move on to the next one until, if my marriage is falling apart, I probably shouldn't be on a bunch of boards, spending all my time there. So now I can get back to the community. And I think it's easy, and I did this for years, keeping my head down and just trying to get the business going. And that's a necessity sometimes. And that's why I say, you have to make sure each one of those things is stabilized. Like if I had a failing business, I couldn't be doing this. So I think it is our duty to, as you actualize in each of those areas, to share that and show that as an example.
What advice do you tend to, kind of lean on or kind of go to more often than not when it comes to, what you share with a young entrepreneur?
So what I'm finding now more than anything with pretty much every person who's approaching me for mentorship, everyone says they want to start a business. Everyone says they want to be an entrepreneur. And the trap you fall into is thinking that it's this glamorous, fun, I'm a founder, I'm a business owner, I'm a CEO, and the focus is mostly on the glamour, and you really underappreciate how bad it can be. So, and this is why I really harp with everyone, what is your why? What's your motivation? And then once you figure out your why, make sure it's strong enough that you will figure it out no matter what, because a lot of people have that idea that they want to be an entrepreneur, but then as soon as it's hard and you got to miss Christmas, or you can't go on vacation, or you miss milestones for your kids, like really think about what you're willing to trade off, and it has to be that powerful.
Great note to end on. Well, DJ, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you.
Appreciate it.